Coming up next on the Voice of Alabama Politics, Masons Mo Money. Also, the V-Team takes a look at the Hubbard case. And Bentley said the state needed a doctor.
They call me Dr. Love. I am your doctor of love. Dr. Love. I got the cure you're thinking of.
A cure like that's gonna kill you. All this and much, much more coming up next on The V.
The Voice of Alabama Politics, with your host, Bill Brett. Now, the #1 political show in Alabama, The V.
Welcome to the Voice of Alabama Politics, where we tackle the tough issues so you have the hard facts. I'm your host, Bill Britt, and as always, I'm joined by the V-Team. Welcome.
Good morning.
Good morning.
I'd like to do a shout out to our viewer in Lee County, Jewel, who said that she was glad to see me back after my hospital stay and all that. So thanks, Jewel. Keep watching.
She is a wonderful viewer and a wonderful person.
She is. I enjoy hearing from her every week.
This week in Alabama politics has been another ugly one. They just keep getting worse and worse. Information is dribbling out about the Masons. John Mason this week, Susan, you reported, got another $29,000 in PayPal payments from the university systems. Give us a little breakdown on how much money he's gotten and how it's been delivered.
So far in the months of February and March alone, he's gotten $74,000. AL.com last month reported they had $45,000. This last month in March, he got another $29,000. Now, all of these payments have been made through PayPal. The reason that's important is because when you just search his company alone through the University of Alabama records, you don't find it. You have to specifically search for PayPal to find this money.
They don't use PayPal a lot, right?
Not really. Over the first quarter, they used a little over $143,000 in PayPal payments to other people. Mason's money represents over half of their payments for those 3 months.
Now, since he started working with the university part-time or on a contract basis, he's gotten almost $300,000. Is that correct?
Yes.
Egregious.
The total is very close. It's like $275,000, something very, very close to $300,000.
I mean, Jack, that's a pretty good part-time gig when you're getting $93,000 from the state.
Yeah, when the only thing you're expected in return is to turn a blind eye toward the affair.
Oh, well, I don't know that that's the truth, but it certainly looks that way,
Sure
doesn't
looks
it?
that way.
It's just amazing. Here they both are state employees on the payroll. Then they've got these private companies and getting money through PayPal, which to me is extremely egregious. I mean, there seems like there is some ethical issues here, and there is clearly no transparency in the administration.
Well, you know, she's getting money through a 501c4 that we don't know where the money's coming from.
Dark money.
Cooper Shattuck has said they will release the 990s, which is the reporting. That should be due any day.
Monday is due by the 18th, tomorrow.
So we should be seeing those 990s. There'll be some scurrying towards the hills if we actually get the numbers. Jack, this is not the man the people elected in 2010 and 2014.
Well, you're right. And either he was a fraud the whole time, or this whole affair's got him thinking like a crazy person. I mean, he's made some wretched decisions.
I think it's the latter.
You think he's just snapped?
I think that he's deeply in love with this woman who's manipulating his mind and making him make bad decisions for the state of Alabama and everywhere else.
And supposedly, she's the only person he listened to for a year and a half, 2 years, whatever.
Well, it's just crazy, and there's all this money, dark money, and all of other things going on. We also realized this week, Susan, from your reporting, that the Masons failed to report their ethics filings properly, leaving out money and other issues.
They have. There's been some real problems on both John Mason's forms and Rebecca Mason's forms. One of the major things that I see is on neither of their forms have they ever reported getting money from the University of Alabama, which should have been categorized under miscellaneous.
Some $300,000.
Some $300,000.
They just have to forget that.
It could have been by design, do you think?
Well, the thing is on Rebecca Mason's, 2 of her forms, like I think it's 2012, 2013, one time she says that John Mason is her husband owning owns 5% of a company. The next time she doesn't. On John Mason's 2012 return, he doesn't even claim her as a spouse.
Jack, there may be a reason he doesn't claim her as a spouse.
Well, I mean, aside
It's not like it was a secret affair, you know?
I mean, I think they had kids by there. It should have been kind of obvious.
But you
don't
know,
you
this
think?
also underscores
Yeah.
what a weakling our ethics committee. No one ever reviews those documents once they're filed. And if a sharp person had seen that she had put down not applicable, then you pick up the phone and say, would you clarify this?
And all this money is just, that's really, really troubling.
And I think that he hits the nail on the head. If we're going to have ethics forms and we all have to abide by them, we all have to live in them, whether you're contracts, you're state employees, or whatever, then somebody should rectify this and they should clean it up. But it's egregious to me, and it surely, I mean, I think without doubt the Ethics Commission is clearly looking into this, because I had mentioned to you earlier through the week that I understand Johnny McMarr has for sure been contacted by
But
them.
I mean, a teacher and
Thank you.
elementary school teacher in her first year has to fill out these ethics forms and get them right or lose her job.
Right.
And here we have two people, top level government of people that can't get them right. It was crazy. I want to switch topics. No, that's all nuts. We talked this week with several people in the governor's office. They say the atmosphere there is bizarre. They say that there's paranoia everywhere, that the governor's depressed. But we also hear that Rebecca Mason and the governor are speaking daily. She's still advising him. And we also understand that they snuck her into the State House, Jack, last week for a 3-hour meeting.
You know, it's if you make a clean cut, you leave, you get out. But he's obsessed. I mean, you know, people around him who love him, who cared for him, who worked for him, who supported him, are now all jumping off the ship because he's acting like a crazy man.
For him to bring her in the elevator, in the governor's office, in the Capitol, like that, and think that nobody was going to see them, that's a little outrageous. I mean, there are at least finance office and the rest of the governor's office, at least 10 people would have seen
Well,
them.
they were trying to make sure no one in the media saw them, that's for sure.
Well, they don't think that people in state government talk
Really?
to other
But,
people?
you know, one of the things that's really concerning me is I'm hearing from people that have been longtime friends with him that are still reaching out to him. He's not reaching back.
Well, the
that's
craziest,
disturbing.
Yes.
the craziest thing we've heard, and we've only got about a minute, is that Rebecca Mason turned the governor's mind to think that Matt Hart, the chief prosecutor in the Mike Hubbard case, was an evil guy who was out to get her. And they say that the governor has said that Matt Hart is evil, and he thinks that he is the one that caused Spencer Collier to come forward. He's the one leaking the tape. Claire, they even believe he's orchestrating all this behind the scenes.
Which is crazy.
And you know Matt Hart.
Of course. Now, what you're saying, guilty feet don't have any
Have no rhythm.
Yeah, well, she must have, all this ethics things, everything she's been doing has been guilt. If she'd been smart and played along and given Matt and them what they needed, maybe she wouldn't be in the shape that she's in today.
Well,
but
then
Matt Hart is not going to do something unethical.
Wasn't there that list that
Yeah, there's a rumor that
the Hubbard camp put out there, and she was supposedly on that list as a target, and that's where all this paranoia
So
started.
maybe she's being looked into because where there's smoke, there's fire.
Yeah.
That's true.
But originally this came about because Mike Hubbard's cronies put out a rumor that Matt Hart had a hit list of people that he was going to come after the thing. And that she was on the list, and this was to get allies to join them. I mean,
Right, and that's exactly, and his little minions have successfully succeeded in that, and unfortunately now
they
look at our
fallen prey
government.
to it. We're going to have to leave it right there. You're watching the V, the voice of Alabama politics. We'll be right back with more news and analysis.
They call me Dr. Love. I am your doctor of love. Dr. Love. I got the cure you're thinking of. Dr. Love.
It's time to take a road trip.
In Alabama, the road and the restaurants are calling. We've elevated barbecue to an art form, a meat masterpiece. Fine dining your thing? national awards are putting us on the map.
Because everything's fresh and local.
And if you like your dinner with a view, well, you can't beat this. Alabama has a road trip with your name on it.
Which one you gonna take?
Welcome back to the V, the voice of Alabama politics. Welcome, Beth.
Good to be here.
Our Ethics Commission is at it again. They think it's okay for lawmakers, legislators, public officials to go to work for businesses that have business before the state. Randy Davis, a lawmaker from down in Mobile, has requested that it be okay that he work for a company called Arc Terminal that has business before the state. We've seen this before, haven't we?
We've seen it a dozen times, and it seems like there's really no bones in this ethics bill except for the fact that you have to go and ask them for permission to break the law. That's all it really shows. I mean, it's an oil company wanting to hire a music teacher to do what? I mean, what business could they possibly have in common besides he has business? It's ridiculous. This is ridiculous.
It's sad, Claire, that the Attorney General's office has to come in and force this group to do what's right. They've already said that, and I like Randy Davis, but they said he can go work for a company that's doing business before the government. He has no experience in the oil business or being a spokesman for them. Nothing to say, huh?
I have nothing to say.
You know how these lobbyists are mum on things like this.
Well, I mean, it's just...
Well, I guess what I'll say, we've seen a trend here with other legislators. You know, we saw it with the lady from Birmingham. Patricia Todd, and there needs to be some consistency here. And if they are representing things before the Alabama legislative body, then they really shouldn't be able to do that.
Well, Jack, they gave what it was is that they said, well, Randy, do you promise not to lobby on behalf of your company? And he goes, well, of course I don't. If you don't believe me, ask them.
Right.
Well, I mean, and Claire, as a lobbyist, you should want for the representatives not to be able to get lobbying contracts because it makes more business for lobbyists.
Well, excuse me, the speaker's a lobbyist.
Yeah.
And he lobbies. What more can you get?
That's why he's on trial in Lee County.
That's exactly right.
But I mean, in all seriousness, it is outrageous that they continue to put forth these opinions that basically say, sure, break the law.
Was it a formal opinion or he just called?
A formal opinion.
That's even worse.
Voted on unanimously. And the law is very clear. You cannot take a thing of value from a lobbyist or the principal of an organization, that meaning the head of an organization that's doing business for the state. And this is clearly a thing of value in the form of a paycheck.
Right, and that's, I guess, where I'm confused, because I thought the Ethics Commission was designed to help sort out those gray areas, not to just permit you to break the black and white law. I thought it was supposed to be, well, the law's a little ambiguous here. Let's help sort out and kind of fine-tune the edges.
I think they're
so what
creating
happens down the
gray.
road with both of these legislators, as Beth has just mentioned, and if something comes out and the Attorney General's office has to investigate something, I guess they can say, oh, well, the Ethics Commission said it's fine.
Sure. That would be reasonable doubt in a jury's mind.
I thought they decided that the Ethics Commission's decision could not be used as a defense in court.
Well, this is going to be something that could be used as reasonable doubt. It's not supposed to give them a get out of jail free card, but these opinions have stood up for years. That these are not suggestions or advice. These are official.
I
opinions.
like Randy Davis too.
I do too.
Oh,
But I bet he voted aye on the ethics package that passed in December of 2010.
If they want to break the law, change it. They have the power to change these laws. Mm-hmm. But until the law is changed, this is what the Republicans offered. This is not a Democrat thing. The Republicans passed this.
Well, I think it's one of those things, too, where they came in, they said, Democrats have been breaking the law. This is crazy that they've been doing this for all these years. And it was crazy no matter who's doing it. But they came in and they said, here's some common sense reforms that we can put in to clean up the corruption in Montgomery. And now that the shoe's on the other foot, they're like, well, that corruption might not be so bad now that we're the ones profiting from
Those
it.
ethics laws, Jack.
What were we thinking?
Another thing that happened this week, and it's a little bit of old news, but I wanted to cover it because our good friend, your personal good friend from Huntsville area, Representative Mike Ball, who likes to refer to himself as an old lawmaker, old investigator. He all along has been accusing Matt Hart of prosecutorial misconduct, even testified to it. He went on the Dale Jackson show a couple of weeks ago and said that that Matt Hart had been trying to suppress his political speech, Jack. You remember that?
Yeah. Well, I don't know. Mike's a friend, but I think he's shown real poor judgment rallying around Mike Hubbard. And now he's having to pay for it,
Yeah. I mean, Claire, he said that Matt was trying to suppress his political speech because he said that pep rally he went to with Mike was actually a campaign event.
A campaign event?
A campaign
at the
event.
Lee County
Chamber of Commerce.
Chamber of Commerce, right after all that happened?
Yeah.
Interesting. Well, they're mixing a lot of things. I just think that it is very interesting that he would do that. This is old news. I mean, this was months and months ago.
Yeah, but
he
he's
still
come out-
he's
yeah,
going after
yeah,
Matt.
yeah.
I think there's probably, by design, they're probably trying to regurgitate some of these things because we're getting closer to the trial.
Yeah,
And the
well,
media.
Let's not forget too that there's a common thread now between Mike Hubbard and Mike Ball, and that is that Bill Baxley represented Ball in Lee County at the
That's
grand
right.
jury,
Very good
and
point.
now he's Mike Hubbard's attorney. So
and
now
he
you've
started
got that
making
conflict.
this legal argument against Hart after Bill Baxley became Mike Hubbard's
So
attorney.
there is the rat in the woodpile.
Yeah,
There it is.
That's right.
Found it.
We got about 2 minutes left. Last week, the state filed what's called a 404B motion, and under 404B of the rules, and 404B says that they are going to bring up other acts, wrongdoings, misdoings that a defendant has done that they're not necessarily charged with the crime, but they're going to bring it up. Beth, you're in law school. Tell us about it.
Well, I'm in law school, but I have to say now, so I don't get in trouble at the bar, I am not an attorney, and this is not any kind of legitimate legal advice. But a 404B petition is basically a way to get in pattern and practice without putting in bad character evidence.
Give us an example.
So, okay, for example, if you're on trial and I wanted to show that you're a dirty, stinking traitor, I can't say, he committed these crimes because he's a dirty, stinking traitor unless you first come in and say, I wouldn't do this. I'm a good person. I'm an honest man. Then I can, as the prosecution, present character evidence against you. So 404B is kind of a way to slip in motive and intent and all of those things without it being character evidence that
Right.
would be inadmissible.
So, and this is, and some of the papers got it wrong, Jack. They were saying Hubbard's going to be charged with more crime. This is not. They want to show he's got a pattern.
There's
of
a
practice,
pattern, and
and that's what he does. I mean, Claire, I don't think they're going to have to reach far back to see some motives.
Yeah, he's had a
Mike
lot of
Hubbard.
pattern and practice and motives of doing the same thing. He's been pretty consistent with this for the last 10 years.
It's another thing. We don't have much time left. People have been bringing up this thing that Mike Hubbard's getting a plea deal. He's going to serve 18 months in Lee County. That ain't going to happen. They're lying to you.
Well, they did
That's
just
just
build
a
that
rumor
shiny
mill
new
instead.
justice center, though, just for him.
And they might as well leave him at home with the dogs if they did that. I mean, he'd have it so cushy over there. Well, listen, we're going to have to leave it right there. You're watching The V, the voice of Alabama politics. We'll be right back with more news and analysis.
In 1977, an 8-year-old boy picked up the game of golf from his father. The odds of that same boy then making it to the US and European pro golf tours, 1 in 7 million. The odds of the Big Easy winning the US Open twice, 1 in 1.2 billion. The odds of him having a child diagnosed with autism, 1 in 88. Ernie Els encourages you to learn the signs of autism.
Welcome back to The V, the voice of Alabama politics. This week, the state filed several motions, 8 motions on several issues, but the biggest one was 7 motions to exclude certain testimony and certain evidence that really is irrelevant to the case, but they might try to get in. Susan, the first one they really started out with big on was they want to exclude any testimony or evidence that refers to prosecutorial misconduct, vindictive or selective prosecution, and all this matter surrounding a witch hunt. They want to get that out of there, right?
They do, and Judge Walker has already ruled on those and said that these are not present in this case. I think this is just to try to make sure that none of these witnesses appear on the witness stand as a result of anything that has to do with these charges.
I mean, Beth, how can they try to seek to exclude information like this?
Well, they've done a motion in limine, and basically what that does is it says, here's some evidence that we think we don't want to be. It's just narrowing the scope of the trial. And I think part of it, and especially in terms of like this witch hunt, the prosecutorial misconduct information, what they might be trying to do is keep the jury from nullifying. And so what that is where the jury says, okay, we understand that, like, yeah, the evidence shows you're guilty, but the law's stupid, so technically you're innocent. And so a lot of these things by the other representatives' contracts, the prosecutorial misconduct, all of that stuff would be used, in my opinion, to show that here's how, yeah, he did break the law, but the law is kind of broken by everybody, it's loose, and maybe the jury would say, you know, who cares if you break the law? Yeah, but
like one of the things, Claire, they said in there that they didn't want any evidence of anybody else having these similar type contracts. Well, they say, well, those shouldn't matter because it doesn't matter if I've got a contract, you've got a contract. He's been charged with a crime.
Right.
He shouldn't be able to bring that in. What do you think?
Well, I think that's exactly correct. And the segment before we talked about that, and the Ethics Commission has got to be consistent on this because here he is on trial with this. They're setting these other folks up down the road for this.
Yeah, I mean, it's like really, Susan, like getting a speeding ticket. I mean, not everybody gets a ticket. You can't.
Not everybody gets caught.
Yeah,
right.
Exactly. It's just like you and I both get a speeding ticket, and I can look at the officer and go, oh, we're both speeding, I'm sorry. And I can look at the officer and say, I'm sorry, but he was speeding too. And I'm sorry, that doesn't work when it comes to the law.
You know, to clear it all out, like you were saying, they need to clear the cobwebs out of this case, and all that the judge has already ruled on should not be allowed when they go to trial.
Well, one of the really more interesting things that they're trying to keep out is where Hubbard came in there and said, well, these laws, what were we thinking? They're bad laws. I mean, they're unconstitutional. It's taking away my right. They shouldn't be able to bring that up, right, Beth? That's what they're saying.
That's what they're trying to say, and especially, you know, talking about the sentencing and all of that stuff too. You know, that Bill Baxley shouldn't be able to say, you know, is he really guilty of 300 years in prison? Is that really what he needs? You know, I think all of this is kind of setting up to make sure that they don't nullify the jury and the jury can focus on the issues at hand.
They're trying to stop Bill Baxley from doing what they've always done: deny, deflect, and delay this case. Right?
Exactly. I think it is very smart on the state's part, the prosecution's part, to do this and get it out early on because this is a very important case. It's very complicated, and they don't need those issues to muddy up the waters.
One of the other ones, Susan, I think has some real merit to it, is where they come in and they say, look, you use Craftmaster to basically get millions of dollars out of Algop, out of that. But you can't point out that these other people used Craftmaster too and say, well, Craftmaster's a good company, why shouldn't I? You know, that was one of the big points.
That's one of the big points, and it is a really big point because what the defense is going to try to say is, well, you know, everybody else used them too, why shouldn't the ALGOP? The point is not whether it's a good company or not. The point is that Mike Hubbard, who was the chairman of the ALGOP at the time, funneled money through Majority Strategies and back to his company. That's the issue here.
Absolutely, that's
it has
the
nothing
point.
to do with what's a popular company or everybody else is doing it. It has the fact that he manually directed that money.
Right. Like you're talking about, who's the principal of that company?
Right.
Who's the chairman of this party?
Right.
Where the money is going, follow the money with the companies.
Right. Do you think, Beth, I mean, I've talked to several attorneys, and most of them think that they say that some judges will go with all these types of things, some judges eliminate a few of them. Which things do you think the judge might leave in?
Oh, I don't know about that. That's going to be for his decision, but I think that Judge Walker's done a good job so far at ruling fairly and making these determinations. And I think when he does, what he's going to look at is first, you know, how relevant is this evidence to what's coming up? And then the next thing is going to be what value does it hold in proving either side's point versus the prejudicial effect it could have on a jury. So that's going to be kind of what he has to show. Is this going to be more relevant to the case, or is it going to skew the jury more? And whichever wins is how he'll rule.
And one that I think is important in that is they filed limine not to be able to use the election, either the election in Lee County or his re-election and to Speaker of the House. That's one that a lot of people have been real concerned about, and one they were trying to go ahead and set up when they had those pep rallies and all of that, to be able to use that in court, and the prosecution saying, Judge, that's not fair.
Well, you can imagine what a jury would think, Claire, right? If they say, well, he was elected by his district, he was elected by these guys.
Even the Democrats voted for him.
Even the Democrats voted
except
for
for
him.
one.
Yeah, but do they get to go and ask these legislators, and they say, "Oh, I'm scared not to vote for him because I'll get taken off this committee,
No,
and
that's
I'm
the
getting
point.
money
Is
from
that the
this,
jury
this, and that."
can't hear all of it or can't understand the complexity of all of it
Right.
and the
and
limited time
factors
frame
and
they've
why
got.
people have voted for him versus
Exactly.
This
not.
trial is slated for 2 weeks starting May 16th. 2 weeks to get all this information in. We wrote up you wrote up something this week about how they've got 1,115. how many?
1,511 documents and indices that they've already presented. That's just what they presented to the defense as what they're going to use.
This is what they're going to use as evidence. And we've already seen a long list of lawmakers. More this week were subpoenaed to come testify in Lee County. It's going to be a who's who of politics. Claire, we're never going to have seen so many Republicans in one place
And
in Lee
I'm
County.
so glad I won't be on that who list. Okay.
I got a call on the Thursday from a senator who said, well, Brett, I just wanted to let you know I joined the club. I said, what do you mean? He said, I'll be seeing you in Lee County. I said, you won't be seeing me, but on this side of the box.
I'm quite sure they're going to get all those subpoenas served while they're still in session and catch them all in one place.
I just don't know how they're going to really get this done in 2 weeks. I mean, that's going to be, unless you start at 8 in the morning, you can't go much past 4:30 or 5.
But the other thing, too, is we still got to select a jury.
Right.
And if you're finding ways to strike jurors, you've got to keep pulling a new Venari every chance you get. And so I think we're going to see it delayed a little bit longer if
Well,
they
I
pull
hope
the
you're
jury
wrong on that. I
jury
think
stuff.
that
Aren't they going to start the jury pulling on the 9th?
On the 9th.
Right.
Yeah.
But you've got to get the right number of jurors that don't have any bias.
Well, I recommend that anybody that plans on coming to Lee County bring a stadium seat, whether it's Auburn, Alabama, or
your favorite
Troy.
high school.
You bring it because they're hard and it's long and it's going
Make
to
sure
be
it's not printed by
interesting.
Craftmasters.
Not by Craftmaster. All right, you've been watching the voice of Alabama politics. You watch us because we watch them. Thank you and have a safe weekend.